sharp edges here.
Good evening, YouTube. This is Kaylin Stern coming at you with my regular Sunday night dinner. And I accidentally hit the live quite a little bit before I was ready. So, what I got is something very unique. I hope y'all enjoy this. I got to make another little bit of an adjustment there. Actually, I'm going to raise this up just a hair. Now what I got here is both bags of Ration cold weather. These preceded what we now know as the meal cold weather. The Ration cold weather is a 24-hour Arctic or cold climate ration. It features dehydrated and or freeze-dried entrees, no retort pouches because they would freeze. So everything in here is intended to stand up to very cold conditions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up both bags. LC is here. Thanks for dropping in. I'm going to put the 2B bag aside, and I'm going to open up 2A first. I'm going to cut into it from the back. Now most of the items will be packed in white. So here we have instant oatmeal. This was done by Trans Packers. They did this before Mountain House took over the oatmeal portion. And they do use the current style MRE spoon. I'll put that over here next to my spork. Here it says instant soup. And it looks like this one has a 96 pack date. It does not say what flavor of soup this is. So it'll be interesting to find out what that is. And here is accessory pack. Looks like all of these come from Right Away Foods. This cocoa powder was done by Trans Packers. This is apple cider Ration cold weather. Also by Trans Packers. Then Right Away did the crackers. Your standard Amory style crackers. Another cocoa powder. So there are two cocoa powders in here. And I have an additional one that came in a box of goodies. The outside of the bag says fruit bar. I wasn't sure what kind of fruit bar would be, but here we have fig bars, and appears to be two of them in there, kind of like Fig Newtons. And then the last thing out of bag A is nut raisin mix, and it also labeled as Ration cold weather. Because this is a large amount of these, the soldier could probably eat half at one time and then the rest at another time. I'm going to put all these back in here for now, and I will show you what is in bag B, but I'll keep the accessory packet out. Waffles is here. Phantom Super is here. Welcome. Lambolette or Lambolet. I'm not sure which. I do apologize. I'm not sure which way to go with that. Welcome. Thanks for dropping in. Now that I have opened bag A, I'm going to set that aside and open bag B. Then I just sliced from the back. It said candy on here, so we have M&Ms when they used to be known as plain and not chocolate. They provided 2 spoons with this. They got 2 bars in here, an oatmeal bar, an oatmeal cookie bar, and a granola bar, same shape. You can see here where the 2 join. Brownie chocolate covered, but it's as thin as the chocolate covered cookie bar. This is tea mix. This is instant. Slightly different style of packaging, similar to what the cocoa used to be in the late, like the MCIs, the early MREs from the 80s. It's more of a paper, and it looks like a dot of something touched it on the backside. got two of them. So 2 instant teas. This is a chicken a la king. And this one was done by Oregon Freeze Dry, which we now know as Mountain House. Again, 2 more of the oatmeal cookie and granola bars in the same package. And this is the orange drink powder. So all this from a 1996 ration. I have been wanting to get hold of one of these for a long time. So thanks to one of the regulars in a ration group I'm in on Facebook, I was able to make a trade for this. He had a couple of these, and he didn't mind parting with one. So I'm going to put these spoons aside, since obviously I'm not going to be using those. Now we'll open this accessory pack. It does not say anything on the outside what is in it. So here you have a Tootsie Roll. Two rear rolls. There's another Tootsie Roll. Green matches. And they have white tips. Again, I have no idea what the match color means. A red packet Taster's Choice coffee. Ones that are notorious to be bad. And this one has already gone crispy. I'm pretty sure that one is toast. Got Domino sugar. And coffee creamer. This has a possibility of still being good, but then again it could not. A piece of gum. You know, this peppermint gum is yellowed a bit. And then this is a bag closure, apparently for the entree bag. And there are actually 2 of these. And that is it for the accessory pack. Mama Styles is here. Thanks for dropping in. Spicy Tuna Rolls is here. So again, for those just joining in, I have a 1996 Ration cold weather. Now I'm going to decide on tonight's dinner. So I will do the instant soup. And this actually gives a couple of options. The soldier could crumble a granola bar into here, add the apple cider powder into there. And here is the apple cider powder. And we'll check out these crackers. I think I'll save the apple cider for another time. So got 2 cocoa powders. I think I'll go ahead and check out one of those. And I think this one appears to be the better of the two. This one feels a bit clumpy. Now this nut raisin mix does have a very good vacuum seal on it, but because of the age, the nuts may have already gone south. Take a look at the fig bars. So I think I'll save this for next time. Sorry about that. We'll check out this orange powder. And there's a lot of powder in here. We'll see how that goes. Is Bob in the house? Bob, this is a 1996 Ration cold weather. I don't know if you ever experienced any of these when you were in Well, this does not look like orange. Oh, it does not smell like it, so I think this one might be messed up. Doesn't look like this orange powder is going to be it tonight, so that's okay. Got the instant tea powders. Oh, this looks like it's in much better shape. And it smells like actual lemon instant tea. It smells about the same as that instant tea that was in that experimental long-range patrol I did with the teriyaki rice with beef. Now the instant soup, it actually feels like there might be another packet inside here. We'll find out. In fact, there is. They double packed the Lipton cup of soup, chicken noodle. And because of that double packaging, that preserved the scent of it pretty well. Because this is a huge amount of oatmeal, which could be prepared in the package, but I'm not going to. And it looks like what they did was they double packed this as well. they double packed it inside of this bag. And this is where one of these closer things would come in. I'm just using a Walgreens bag that I have off to the side for my trash. It actually smells pretty darn good. So it's apple and cinnamon oatmeal. And that, again, will be done with hot water. So I'm just setting that off to the side. Multi-Magnum is here. Thanks for dropping in. It looks to be a very, very fine powder. It looks a little different than the cocoa powders, where you can tell it's had other stuff added to it. Again, for those that are just coming in, this is a 1996 Ration Cold Weather. Because Right Away, which became Warnick, did not put a date code on the outside of either bag, I had no way of knowing what year this was until I opened it up to reveal the date codes. With the 6 being the first digit. So I have a whole lot of water in my kettle. I'm going to go bring that back, and I will start mixing all of these things up. That oatmeal's smelling good. Here's what the mixed up cocoa looks like. It looks a little different. I have the pot still. I kept the burner on it. I had a lot of water in that kettle just in case I needed to add a little bit more, possibly to the oatmeal, since there's a lot of it in there. Or if I need to, if the soup tastes a little salty, I may add something to it. There is a close-up of the soup, little bits of pasta. Trying to catch that carrot. It's like a chicken flavor. I don't see any chicken pieces in here. I'll just get a taste of this broth by itself. Maybe with a couple of the noodles. Ford Menace here. Thanks for dropping in. You're looking at a 1996 Ration Cold Weather. And I have chosen for tonight's meal the apple cinnamon oatmeal, which is in this Ration steel cup. I got the cocoa mix. The orange drink powder looked like clumpy instant tea mix, not orange at all. So I went for one of the two instant tea mixes. And that is in my drinking jar. So here we have the crackers. It looks like they had a little issue on the packing line. I'll just break that bit off. I don't know if you heard that hiss or not. I mean, I have my air conditioner on, so that may have muffled the sound. A little bit of breakage in these crackers, so I'm going to pull those bits out. Mother Earth Garden Club is here. Thanks for dropping in. CR from north of the border has come in as well. These fig bars might be really, really dark. But they are also broken. And they smell exactly like a fig Newton, although a very old fig Newton. But you can get a good cross section of the fig bar there. They actually don't look too bad. I'm going to take a test nibble of one of these smaller pieces of cracker just to make sure that it is still edible. This is one side of the cracker. They look like a saltine. You get that varying color on saltines. Well, one just went into the soup. But that's okay. They offered no spreads for this. I'm just going to go ahead and break that one up anyway. My intention was for these crackers to go into the soup anyway. But these crackers were very well preserved. I'm actually pretty surprised. Wow. Ford, that is nuts. That's dial-up. That's what you get on dial-up. Your ISP should do you better than that. That is nuts. Although the crackers instantly break down into soup, it still adds a little something to it. And I'm getting ads for what's called Google Fiber, and the ads are saying that that service is now here in Des Moines, and it's supposed to be better than the other options available besides Mediacom, which I currently have for cable internet, and the company whose the name I will not mention anymore because how they deceive people, how they treat their customers when they have problems. And another one That came in a few years ago. That is supposedly pretty good. And then this Google Fiber. But it seems like the east side of Des Moines always gets shafted whenever something new comes in. Oh, speaking of bread, someone in on another one was asking about the new mini loaf bread that comes in American rations. It looks like, to me, a thin version of the Australian bread from a CR1 or PR1M. But about the thickness of wheat snack bread, but it's been filleted open like the Canadian hamburger bun, but sliced all the way through is where the Canadian hamburger bun is hinged. They don't cut it all the way through. They leave the two halves attached. But this mini loaf is sliced all the way through, and the slices are probably not much thicker than a cracker. Yep, that's exactly what the packet says. And then there's also another bread just called flatbread. So it's a little bit different, but that one is not sliced. But I am glad to see that these things are being changed up with a few different options. You know, that snack bread, that should be a has-been. That needs to be completely replaced by something with some flavor. Something that doesn't taste like packaging or cardboard. I want to see how this carrot is. That carrot still has a bit of firmness to it. Would have been nice to have more bits of it in there instead of just that one or maybe two. But this is basically like chicken bouillon or chicken broth with noodles and some seasonings in it. You can still buy the cup of soup in stores. But this stuff has been around for a long time. Yep, that is an instant lemon tea. lightly sweetened. Since I have two of those, I think what I may do next time is make it hot. I want to try that one as a hot drink. This cracker has so much more flavor than the crackers today. They're closer to a saltine. Not quite there, but pretty darn close. Whereas the ones today, they're blah. The bagel is sliced as well. Yeah, they're also good for a hike. If you just need something where you don't have to prepare it, yeah, you can cut down whatever you need to cut out in order to drop pack weight. Plus, I would use them at an event where food would not be provided, or I don't have the money to buy it, but I still want to participate in that event. I could simply use the components from the first strike to have a meal or two while I'm there. Or if I just don't have time to go to where the food is provided. For instance, every September I volunteer doing the kids crafts at the White Eagle Multicultural Powwow. If I had absolutely no time to go over to the camp kitchen to get a meal because I'd be so busy with the kids crafts, or if they were done serving before I had some free time, but not enough to go to one of the food trucks, or I didn't have money for one of the food trucks, then I could dig into a first strike ration and pull out a few things and chow down right there in the kids' craft area. Or for instance, yesterday, I uploaded that short video of the Woodward Friends Day Parade. I initially shot it as a reel on Facebook, but I didn't realize that it had to be vertical orientation with the camera. So I shot it horizontal, but then I figured I'm going to try something. I'm going to download it from Facebook, see if I can rotate it on my phone, and I did, so I uploaded it so it is in the correct position here on YouTube. So I did not get the entire parade. There are probably a couple other vehicles that went by, but I got most of them. I think I got the most interesting things like that pink car. Yeah, there was, yeah, I was with a group of indigenous people that I help, they also help out with the powwow. We're on the organizing committee, and we sold some fried bread tacos, some nachos, the walking taco, but instead of individual bags of the chips, we just put some chips onto a little disposable tray, and then just put the stuff on top of that. But for the others, we had the fry bread and then put the other things on it, like the ground beef that was seasoned, any, whatever else you put on a taco. And then we had some different hot sauces people could put on it, and then if they wanted sweet, we had syrup, we had brown sugar, we had sugar cinnamon mix, we had powdered sugar, and then we had honey. So if they wanted sweet, make it into a dessert, we had that option. But the rain just drove us bonkers yesterday. That cut down on our numbers. We didn't sell as much as we could have, but we still had a good time. Yeah, yeah, we just had the regular pancake syrup. But, oh yeah, maple syrup would be good on it. But the key is you got to get that dough right. And we were having some issues with the generator for heating up the water to make the dough the correct way, because doing it with cold water, yeah, not so much. I'm going to take a test sip of this cocoa. It doesn't taste quite as sweet, but it's not too bad. It's one of those fortified cocos. It's not the worst cocoa I've had. I've had some that was absolutely horrendous. I opened up one that actually stunk, so I did not even mix it. Well, this oatmeal's gotten really thick. I might have to go get some more I'm giving this a bit of a mix because it's been sitting here a while. Usually I don't do breakfast items in my reviews, but I have made a couple of exceptions because I just wanted to check out these older ones. Yeah, mixing it up did help. That's actually not too bad. I get the apple, not much of the cinnamon. But I'm going to leave it as far as adding anything. I could add the creamer to it, make it more like adding milk to it. Here's Cliff in the house. Thanks for dropping in. This is a 1996 Ration Cold Weather. And I have this is the outer bag that the oatmeal was in. The oatmeal was double packed, as was the Lipton cup of soup. So this is 1996. So Transpackers was around back then. They're still doing stuff today. On my screen, I'm seeing some glitching, like the video is trying to skip. I have a delay on my tablet screen from the camera. I'm going to take a test bite. This fig bar. Yeah, I have not seen my hand show up on the camera yet. My screen is still showing me stirring up the oatmeal. Oh yeah, I am behind on my screen. But I just took a test nibble of that fig bar, the crust, basically. I'm just going to refresh my tablet screen because my feed that I'm seeing is not acting right. And while that resets itself, I'm going to have some more of my instant soup. Because I have to wait for the ad to clear. There we go, I should be caught up now. I did not get anything funky from that little crust of the fig Newton. That's basically what this is. Oh, that's much better. Now there's only like a 3 to 4 second delay. Have to switch my chat back to live chat on my tablet screen. I have actually never had peanut butter oatmeal. That's one thing I'm currently not aware of, being something you could just go out and buy rather than add your own peanut butter to oatmeal. But that fig bar is actually pretty decent for a 96. Joseph is here. Thanks for dropping in. This is the 2B. This is the 1996 Ration Cold Weather. The orange drink powder. It looks like this. You can see it says beverage base orange. Yeah, that's gonna end up in the trash. But I do have another orange powder from a box that another reviewer sent me, so I may check that one out. That one feels like it's in pretty decent shape. I also got a cocoa powder from Ration Cold Weather, but I picked the better of the two cocoa powders that were in this one. The other one feels a little bit clumpy. So I have no idea how that one is, but these crackers are absolutely perfect. Could use a little salt on the top like the 1980s crackers, but other than the fact that they're still fairly breakable, they're perfectly fine. Oh, not everybody may be having their dinner when I'm having mine. It depends on the time zone of the viewer watching. Now this fig bar, it has a tiny bit of tartness to it. It's darker than a fresher one, obviously, but I'm definitely going to be finishing this off. Yeah, see, someone who's on the other side of the pond may be having their breakfast. Or maybe in Australia, could be lunch. I think I'm going to go shut my stove off before that kettle runs dry. There, I just shut my stove off. That way I don't boil it dry. I did that one other time and my smoke detector went off. I'm putting these two Tootsie Rolls back here. They're in the accessory packet. And they have held their shape pretty good. Like this one seems to be a little bit better, not quite as squished as this one, but still. These could be in pretty good shape. Had some that were just completely melted, went through that thin cardboard sleeve that's supposed to help it hold its shape. So I think these might be pretty decent. Throwing a few more bits of smaller bits of the cracker in the bowl. Just because I can. No problem. If someone can't stay for the whole thing, I'm fine with that. Some might dip in and then back out and maybe catch the replay later. It just all depends on when you're able to watch it. And I'm okay with that either way. I'm going to have some more of this oatmeal. They probably could have added a touch more cinnamon to this, but then it would probably overpower what little apple flavor there is. But that is still perfectly fine with me. Next Sunday, there's a possibility that I may not be able to go live. There may be an event put on by my mosque, and I generally help out with every single one of these that I can. It will be held at a city park that I had not been to before. But I can get there by bus. I just won't be able to get home by bus because on Sundays the buses don't run as late as they do the other days of the week. But this past Friday, we had our second Eid holiday, which is called Eid al-Adha, which takes place on the 10th day of the month of Dhul Hijjah, and it's during the time that people, Muslims who are able to go to Mecca to do the Hajj rituals and activities, they will either slaughter an animal that is provided locally, or they will have someone do it for them. And then all the meat, especially from those who are coming in from outside of Saudi Arabia, all of that meat would be distributed locally. And then people in other countries can slaughter animals in their own area. For instance, if someone were to take me to a farm where I would buy a lamb and have it slaughtered for me, then the meat would be divided three ways. Part of it I keep for my own use. Part of it will be given to some other family members or friends, and then the third part will be given to someone in need who would not be able to afford to have any meat for a little while. But since I don't have the money to buy an animal, I don't do that. Plus, I don't have the skill to do the actual slaughter, but I have watched several videos, and I've watched it live when a couple of Kuwaiti guys came to the YMCA camp outside of Boone. They brought a couple of lambs, and I watched them slaughter them and then skin them, and then they took them to the kitchen to butcher them, and then I went on with my regular camp duties. And then they cooked that lamb in with biryani style, and it was a big hit at the camp. I don't think there was any of it left. I was able to get 2 servings of it. It was that good. Took by V's in the house. Thanks for dropping in. This is a 1996 Ration Cold Weather. It came in 2 bags. This is a 24-hour ration. This is 2A. And this is 2B. So I have the apple cinnamon oatmeal. This is a Lipton cup of soup. Actually put one of those packets inside of a bag like this. This happened to be the oatmeal bag. They double packed the oatmeal. The oatmeal was inside of another bag. And then this is, Fig Newtons, basically. The orange drink looked like a chunky version of the powder that became this instant tea. So I did not mix that up. But these crackers are absolutely perfect for being from 1996. There are 2 packets of this instant tea. It's lemon flavored, lightly sweetened. There's 2 packets of this cocoa mix. It's not heavily sweetened. It's one of those fortified cocoa mixes. Those usually have a bit of a different flavor. But these fig bars, they're aged, but they're still just as good. Oh, yeah, Ford, I just read that. I'm sure that would have been a bit of an annoyance. Now, the previous place I lived had a smoke detector right outside the bathroom. And because I shower with my bathroom door open to allow the humidity to escape, every time I took a shower, that smoke detector was going off. And because that one was battery only, not a hardwired one, I just simply took the battery out. Plus, I already had smoke detectors in the bedroom and my spare room, plus in between the living room and the kitchen. So I did not need one right outside the bathroom. Which is the stupidest place to put a smoke detector anyway. As if I were to shower with my bathroom door closed, especially in the summertime, it would get so humid in there, even with the vent fan running, I would not be able to dry off. There's Tim in the house. Thanks for dropping in. Yeah, speaking of LA, someone on X, formerly Twitter, just basically said, yeah, I think I'll write off LA. I'm glad I'm not there. I'm going to stay right here in Iowa. No craziness like that. And someone else had posted on Facebook that everybody should have a picture of their birth certificate on their phone if they don't carry it with them. Or maybe carry it with them and your passport if you have one, just in case your citizenship is questioned. And speaking of birth certificates, I did get mine from my mother so I can use it to get a new ID, because my ID I got after I moved in here expired at the end of last year, but I can't get into the Iowa DMV location. I have to set an appointment. I can't get in there till next month, but fortunately that's before I take off on my family's annual trip to Lake Icaria. But even though I'm here in Iowa, I may actually just take a picture of it, keep it in my phone memory. I don't have a passport. That way, if my citizenship is questioned, and I have had some nutheads say that I shouldn't be a citizen just because I'm a Muslim, even though I was born here. Just some nutheads. But yeah, I just might start doing that, even though I'm here in Iowa. There have been instances where people who are born in the U.S. to parents who are born in the U.S. have been nabbed by ICE agents. And even after the proof of citizenship, they were still held in one of those overcrowded detention facilities for some time before they're released. Thanks for dropping in, Tim. Again, for those coming in late, there's a possibility that I may not go live next Sunday. My mosque is hosting an event at a city park here, and I will most likely be helping out with that. That will not end until 7 o'clock, so I would not be able to get home at a decent time, most likely, to get my next stream going. So the second half of this one will most likely be in 2 weeks. Okay, Mother Earth Garden Club, go enjoy some grandma time. Yeah, it's Colby Park, and it's near the Windsor Heights Walmart. We have done Eid parties at the mosque parking lot and on the grass, but because we recently did some flower planting and some roses are going to be added fairly soon, I wouldn't wait any more than now to get those in. But that's just my guess. I'm no rose expert by any stretch. But we got flowers in different parts. We have some pavers put down where the picnic tables are. That little free library box was taken off the pedestal so that it can be repainted and repaired. And then the pedestal base was painted. So that should be brought back pretty soon. But we have the only thing that was professionally done was the boat delivery of the mulch for the flower beds. The delivery driver just dumped a pile of it in the parking lot, and then a couple of our guys shoveled into the planting areas or on the flowers. So, and they did some edging tiles to separate the grass from the edge of the flower beds. So it looks really nice. Brings a little beauty to that part of 42nd Street. Going for another bite of the oatmeal. That mug of oatmeal probably equals 3 of those little packets that you would Oh, maybe 4 of them. Might equal 4 of those little instant oatmeal packets. And whenever I eat those, I usually eat 2 of those at once. Yeah, Ford, that probably sounds like some serious amending would need to be done to either bring up the acidity level or drop it. Because I plant in pots exclusively since I'm not on the ground floor and I don't have my own patch of grass. I just use a mix of the compost I have. I've not bought potting soil, but last year I rescued a bag of potting soil that was like a third full that someone had left in the laundry room. And then earlier this year, there was half a bag full that was left on the patio below me that was left by a previous resident who had been evicted. And no one has been down there in that apartment since, so it's still vacant. So I brought it up and I mixed it with my compost and put that in to the pots. So that's what I planted in. Thanks for dropping in, CR. Hope to see you another time. But last year I didn't plant anything at all because of the flood that happened in my apartment. It was caused by the nuthead above me. I had to have some of my stuff put out on my deck. By the time I got it all brought back in, it was already getting too hot to start anything out there like my herbs and greens. So I just didn't bother. I just kept building up my compost, adding to it. My main bin is full, and I'm using that rescued former tree watering bucket for additional compost storage. But anytime I get eggs, I rinse the eggshells out, they get dried, and then I break them up and add them into the compost. I'm just dropping some more cracker bits into what's left of my soup. Just to give it a little something because there's mostly broth left. Maybe a noodle here or there. Speaking of the noodles, a cup of soup noodles are actually, they don't completely go to mush. They'll break before they just completely dissolve, even after sitting this long. Because of the way that they're made for this cup of soup. Yeah, that would actually suck. Yeah, you would have to put a fence around it with a gate that you would go in and out of to keep the deer out. Of course, then that would be, if you be allowed to do that where you live. Now, some places, especially in the cities, you can't do as much as you would like to your own property. But in other places you can get away with it, no questions asked. Oh, that is a real crapper. You and so many thousands of people had to go through that and have a hard time replacing that meat. And some people didn't have generators, or they, if they had them, they didn't have enough fuel to keep them running for as long as they needed to, or they ran it too much and not staggered it out to allow that fuel to last longer. But some people cannot have generators at all, especially if you live in an apartment or a condo where you can't have that distance that you have to have between the generator and a door or window. Because my deck does not stick out too far from the side of the building, and me not being on the ground floor, the only way I could have a generator was if it would be on the ground and then have a super long extension cord running up into my slider. That's too risky because someone would try to take the generator. So that's where my power stations come in. And I have a solar panel for each one. But because I don't get direct sun on my deck, I would have to take the power station and the solar panel down to the parking lot or into the city park across the street and sit down there the whole time while it's charging in order to prevent it from being stolen. So whenever I use them, I just plug them into a wall outlet and charge them that way. But if I had to go outside with a solar panel, yeah, I'd do it. I would just have to stay down there with it. Yeah. Because of where I'm at, I do have a bit of a good view because I'm up a little bit. In the winter, I can definitely see across through the whole park when the trees are not leafed out, but because the trees are all leafed out, I can't see as far. Because in front of my apartment, I have a birch tree, and then on the other side of the sidewalk, next to the mailboxes, in between the sidewalk and the street, there's a sycamore tree. So when they're leafed out, plus the trees in the park, I don't see as far. But in the winter, I can see across the park all the way to the street that's on the other side of the park. But because I'm not on the ground floor, it would be intruder more effort in order to get up here. In another place I lived, I was on the ground floor, but because of the shape of the building and where I was, rainwater had collected in there, and it would flood my patio slab. And if too much water would collect there, it would go underneath my slider, and I would have to put towels down there in order to keep the water from coming in. But because I'm not on the ground floor here, I don't have to worry about that. And there's another bit of cracker I can throw in there. I haven't done a deck garden update for a while. We have been getting at least some amount of rain the past few days, maybe a day in between no rain. But while I was in Woodward yesterday, I got soaked. We had two small canopies put side by side, but because one was slightly higher than the other, the rainwater would run down off them and in between them. And if you're standing in between there, you would get a shower. And water had collected in the spot where we were when the heaviest rain, when it was coming down. It was coming down so hard and so fast, it was collecting along the curb of the street because we were actually on the street, not on the sidewalk. And the water was just collecting there too fast for it to go down to the storm drain. So we were walking in about an inch to an inch and a half of water while we were trying to prepare and serve the fry bread, the tacos, and the other things that we were serving. And because of that rain, not too many people were coming over. But we still had a good time. But we were not prepared for the rain. We didn't think it was going to be like that. But someone did have a tarp that we could hang over the back of the canopies to keep rain from falling onto the propane stove that we were using. But we were having issues with the generator that we were using for the crock pot that kept the taco meat warm. It would kept cutting out, so we couldn't get hot water done for making the fry bread dough. So someone was having to go to a nearby building that is an auto body shop, but we were literally working out of that as a staging area where we had supplies stored. So that was only like a couple of blocks away. So someone was running in there to go get a pot of hot water to make more of the fry bread dough. Yeah, when we had the mosque roof redone several years ago, the shingles were replaced with the metal roof. So we will not have any more issues like what we had before we had the roof done. So the crew that did that, they had their work cut out for them because of it was a pretty steep pitch. But they got it done. Because of the problems that they found, it took a little longer for them to do the job, but Once it was done, we haven't had any issues since. Yeah, you gotta get that real ID, and to enter some federal government buildings, you have to have that as well. But I haven't gone inside of a federal government building in quite some time. So I don't know how that would work. I would not be allowed in with my current ID because it expired at the end of last year. But next month, I'll be going to a local DMV office to get a new one. I went back for more of that oatmeal. So even though I have the birth certificate, I don't know if I would still qualify for that real ID, or if there's something that would prevent me from getting it. I don't have a passport. I would have to have a real ID probably to get that, but I don't know if I'll ever get to leave the country again. So I've heard that, I've read some Facebook posts from people saying that even if they don't travel, they're getting passports. Just because they want to cover their tail. Yeah. Well, we haven't gone as far as the former Soviet Union, where even if you never left that country, everyone who traveled, at least by air, had to have a passport along with their government issued ID in order to fly. I have no idea how it would be for train travel. It's if I wanted to, if I were there and I wanted to go from Moscow to Vladivostok by train, would I have had to have a passport back then for that trip, or would that only have been for air travel? Yeah, Ford, I can see why they would not want to go with the cedar. All those places where, the gaps in between or underneath, any variance in between the individual shingles, who knows what could get under there. Yeah, the few times that I've been in planes, back in '86 when I went to Mexico, I had my birth certificate and I got what was known as a tourist card. Now this cocoa's starting to get a little funkiness to it. It's got a film on top. I think it may be done with that. But in but the weekend we went to Mexico City, we were originally supposed to take a train, an overnight train, but I guess the timings were not that great, and possibly there may not have been room in that train at that time, or because we were down there the summer after the '85 earthquakes, there may have been track damage, and we would not have been able to travel from Guadalajara to Mexico City. So it was just quicker to hop basically a commuter flight. So we were in the air for like 35 minutes. Basically, we got up to cruising altitude, just enough time for us to have lunch and then land. That was pretty much it. I'm just busting up this with a cracker. Yeah, I bet not. Especially when you're going on the other side of the planet. That would be a bit much. But other than going to and from Mexico back in '86, at the end of '87, I came back to Iowa after I finished college down there. I finished what I thought was early, but then I got a letter saying that I was like a few credits shy of being able to graduate, and I had taken the wrong class. So I took a class, by mail. They mailed me a book and the materials. I would do the assignments. I would mail them back down. And then when it came time for tests, I would just simply do the tests and then mail them down. And that was it. And then in May of '88, my brother, who was still living in Arkansas with my parents because they're still working at the Girl Scout camp. Well, it's now no longer a Girl Scout camp. I think it's another group has taken over the property. But someone paid for my plane ticket to fly from Des Moines down to Little Rock, and then my parents picked me up at the airport. But that was the last time I hopped a bird. Yeah, I think there was a guy who was doing that. But he hasn't put out anything for a while. I would like to do that, but the problem is I can't get out of the city to a place where I can camp without a driver. So someone would have to take me out of the city to a place where I can camp. Or at least use a campsite for a day in order to do a review like that. A guy whose YouTube channel is called Dub C. He had built a shelter, and he would take rations to his shelter to camp overnight or for 2 nights. And he would do a combination camp video and, of course, review the ration. And then other YouTubers have just taken rations to have as their camp food. They may not necessarily be a reviewer, but they would get rations for their camp food. English Woodsman has done that. TA Outdoors. A couple of guys in England who have done that. Tom Outdoors. Another guy in England who's done that. Of course, his main thing is, besides hiking and camping, is hard cider. He reviews hard ciders that he would buy in a store, or he would go to a pub and he would say what he thinks about that particular hard cider. But he has taken rations on his trips. And of course, CT always had him in his truck. But it was nice to see him in Smokey's chat last night. Yeah, it did not get as warm today as we thought. It was in the forecast. It got up to 72 here. I'm waiting on this weather app to load up on my, I call it my backup. It is 63 here. It was about that warm, at its warm as yesterday in Woodward, but the rain just made everything so cold. But fortunately, the rain really didn't start until after that parade ended. So we were using the parade time as setup time. So I was able to at least get video of most of that short parade. But, rain came a few different times. It chased a few vendors off after the first somewhat hard rain. But there are a few of us who stuck it out. And then when it really started coming down, oh, nope, we're done. Everything's getting soaked. The generator was acting up again, and even having trouble with the propane stove staying lit. So we decided to go ahead and call it. But we are next to a vendor run by a guy who freeze dries candy and sells it. So it was actually fun being next to him because he has come to the White Eagle Multicultural Powwow a couple of times already just to attend it. But he freeze dries candies. So I sampled one of the milk duds. The milk dud, the chocolate covered ball with a crunchy center. But Tack of AOK Urban Homestead, she has a freeze dryer that she bought with the help of a couple others who contributed the money for it. But she's got videos of her and her wife Brenda experimenting with candies, different candies. How well they would come out, what they looked like, what they tasted like. Oh, yes, they do. They have spark plugs like any other gas or diesel engine. You have to check and clean or replace filters. They require oil, so you have to check that, change that. You're supposed to at least run them for probably about a half hour every month just to make sure that everything is working a lot right, and you got good fuel flow, good oil flow, a good combustion of the fuel. Make sure that the spark plug is sparking right. You gotta maintain all that. You gotta have your minimum distance from a window or a door. And of course, you don't want to put too much of a load on it. That's a drawback of the fuel generators. But if you get one of the multi-fuel versions, some that can run on gasoline or diesel or gasoline or propane, some on gasoline, diesel, or propane, or there's that whole house generators that either run on propane or natural gas. So you have to have reliable delivery of the natural gas, or a big propane tank to feed it. But if you can't have any of that, that's where the solar power stations come in. Of course, another problem with generators is people will buy them in advance of a big storm like a hurricane or a blizzard, but then they use it, or they ended up not needing it, then they return it, and then that store is forced to sell it used. And then if that same person runs into another storm, they would have to buy another generator instead of just keep doing that they originally bought. And then just maintain it. Or there would be some stupid people who will buy one, don't read the instructions, and then try to use it and realize that it takes fuel. And they don't put fuel in it, and they wonder why it's not working. I suppose you could use rocks to create some kind of a rapid, or restrict the water flow, and then you would put the wheel in that area in between those rock walls or whatever used to kind of restrict the water flow to keep it just into that channel. That would be one way of doing it. I have watched videos of people who build these things. They're in other countries. I think usually Asia is where they do these. But you still get the water flow. It's just concentrated in that area. And then I saw another one some time back where the guy had this little water powered turbine and put that in the water, and then there was a cord that fed to the alternator, whatever it is, that actually supplied the power to wherever things are going to be plugged in. But you just have to have fast running water. You don't necessarily have to dam the stream to do that. At least that's what these look like. But, it could be worth researching. I finished off that soup. I'm going to put the bowl back there, and I'm just going to keep this here. Go back to this oatmeal. Yeah, you would probably have to dig the bottom out. There's probably a pretty good layer of silt in there. So if that's the case, you dig that out. Maybe build up the banks with that. That might help. Yeah, the source of that stream could also be running dry. If the water table is, or the aquifer is not as full as it used to be. And we've had issues like that here in Iowa when we've been in really bad droughts. Or some of the small streams would literally be dry because the aquifers are so depleted. But even though we've had some decent rain here in Iowa lately, some places have not had much. And when I came home yesterday, I looked out at my pots, and it didn't look like that they had taken a whole lot of water. So I gave some a little bit of a watering yesterday, and then we had rain predicted for today, but we had a little this morning, But then the sun came out, so I watered them all this afternoon. Yeah, or even worse, there would be no water running in it, or it'd just be damp ground that you're walking on. Yeah. But like I said, we got some places here in Iowa that even though we've had rain, our subsoil moisture is lacking, and the top level moisture in some places is lacking. Very little surplus. But we are supposed to get some more rain tomorrow. Whether or not we get any, who knows? Yeah, it sure didn't look like it when I got home from Woodward yesterday. But that place got dumped on. Now we got thoroughly soaked when we were packing up. So I got home, I changed clothes, and made some hot tea. Yeah, like I said, my pots didn't look like they had seen much at all yesterday. But we'll see how things go. Guess we'll find out tomorrow if the forecast holds true or if it's, pardon the pun, all wet. You know, Fig Newton's a bit dry, but still not bad for 1996. Well, let's check out these Tootsie Rolls. Let's see how well these held up. Dang wrapper wants to cling to my fingers. Looks like some of it stuck to at least this one. There we go, got rid of that. But this one did get a little heat stressed, but as you can see, just a light darkening of the cardboard, but that's pretty dark. I'm happy with that one. I just put the rest of that wrapper into my little trash bag. And this cocoa's gotten a funk coming. It's kind of lost it, unfortunately. And it felt like the better of the two packets. Again, that's not the worst cocoa I've encountered, but it's definitely not one of the better ones. The best Ration cocoa came out of an MCI B2. That particular can had the cocoa mix and the crackers in it. That's when Bob had them on one of his sites, and he had these loose MCI cans plus the canned bread that would have been issued separately. The cocoa and those crackers were spectacular. That bread, not so much, but it was still awesome to be able to open that can up just to see what it looked like, what the soldiers back in that time would have had to eat in the field. If they could bring back those crackers, or make them like they used to back then, that'd be awesome. One of these days I hope to get a complete MCI as well stored. Now this Tootsie Roll held its shape better than that first one that I opened. A lot easier to open. Still the same super dark color. Even less of the chocolate stuck to the cardboard. Just a little bit of staining. Perfect Tootsie Roll. I'm finishing off this oatmeal. Oh, there's a whole lot more I could have pulled out. There are two pairs of those vacuum sealed cookie bars. The oatmeal cookie bar and there we go. The granola bar and oatmeal cookie bar. These are done by Sterling Foods. They're still going at it today. I did not open either of those. Yeah, the MCI, if I can get some more of those, and they were stored very well, I would be one happy Polska. I'm not sure about that, but I'm guessing it's some new chat tracking feature that YouTube has for how many times someone drops comments during a stream or during a premiere. I did not see those last night in Smokey's chats. I don't know if this is something that just started today or if only certain channels are seeing it. I just tapped on one and it brings up something called Community Leaderboard. So it appears that it's ranking of how many comments a viewer leaves in the chat. That's what it looks like. I just finished off that tea. Yeah, I don't get that either. If you're if you're doing some very strenuous activity for a long period of time, especially on hot days, you're going to need that salt. And if you can get it from the crackers, or without having to knock back a whole mess of salt tablets, or trying to have enough electrolyte drink powders to add to your water, or if you don't have access to those, you're going to have to replenish it somehow. Yeah, even the 1980s square crackers, when you look at that packaging before you open it, you could see the salt crystals, the shape of them. You know they're there when you looked at that cracker packet. Yeah, those, if you got some that have been stored well and not been compromised in any way, those early 1980s Emery crackers and the round MCI ones, yeah, those need to come back. And of course, the salt packets, they're skimping on the salt packets, because if you have to use one to jumpstart an FRH, you probably need about 5 of those little dinky things that don't even give you a gram of salt. I had a food box or a lunch box, a catered lunch box, and it had salt and pepper packet. The pepper packet was empty. It was a sealed packet, no pepper in it. And then another time, I had a sugar packet that was the same way. It was a sealed packet, no sugar in it. That was weird. Yeah, I'd like to go fishing, but I'm not fishing this part of the Des Moines River in the downtown area. That's what I can get to. Oh no. Too much junk down there, too much nastiness in the water. Our water treatment plant has to run the nitrate removal system constantly. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to drink the water from it. And that is one expensive system to have to run. Oh yeah. And if you just knock back those salt pills and not drink anything with it, that could ruin your day. I don't know if you're supposed to eat anything when you take those. I have never actually looked at a package of salt tablets. I need to buy some and, just to look at them, plus have them on hand because I don't have anything like that. I have electrolyte drink powders that are part of my emergency food storage. Plus, I keep some in my camping food bag and my brew kit. I have some in my get home bag. I have some in my bug out bag. And I have a couple of them in my messenger bag, which serves as my big purse or EDC bag. And then I have another smaller purse that I will use when I'm going somewhere with my family and I don't want to take my big one. I got some of those electrolyte powders in there too. Yeah, my dad worked in Kellogg's cereal plant. I don't know which line he worked on or if he if the line that he would be assigned to ran different cereals on different days or how that worked, but I think he used to get to take a box of cereal every once in a while, or if there was like a misprint or a mispackage where the wrong amount was put into the box, or if there was a problem with the printing on the box or something that it could not be sold to the general public. You know, I think employees got to take some of those as opposed to throwing them out or whatever the heck they did. Of course, this is back in the 70s. Maybe late 60s or something like that. Because my parents were married in 61. And I think that was the first job my dad had was that cereal plant. Yeah, me too. When I'm cooking, I don't put much salt in anything. When I cook eggs, the only flavoring they get really is from the beef bacon fat or if I cook them in butter. I generally don't salt my eggs when I cook them. But if I'm making something with rice or pasta or even like a soup or something like that. I don't put a whole lot in, but when I do use salt, it's pink salt. That's the salt that I like the flavor of it, but I don't use a whole lot of it. But I do store the regular white salt, both the iodized and not iodized. But I may use something like Old Bay, which does have some salt in it. If I use that on something, that's enough. I don't add any extra salt to it. Yeah, I have some of that, the Lowry seasoned salt. And I think they make one that has uh, extra black pepper in it. Once in a while, I might use garlic salt or onion salt, but I use just a straight up powdered garlic or onion powder, or I do the minced. Just a straight garlic or straight onion. I don't generally use the garlic salt or onion salt, but I do have them. I don't have Redmonds. I think the one I'm using now, I had gotten at Walmart. Then I also have, actually, I have one down here, a bag in a small coffee can. This one is Himalayan Chef. So I keep that bag. This is a metal coffee can. Magnetic, it's a steel can. So I have a few of those bags. Plus I have a bag of Celtic gray salt. Yep, I have a variety of hot sauces. In fact, I brought home fry bread taco last night with a few extra pieces of fry bread that was left over from what we were selling at the event yesterday. But she asked me if I wanted hot sauce. I got some at home. So I put some habanero sauce on it last night because I ate that for supper last night. And then because I brought home several pieces of the fry bread, I ate another one of those, and then later I I took the smallest piece of fry bread I had and I just sprinkled sugar on it. Yeah, you won't, if you get the one that if you get the ones that just say sea salt, yeah, they will have that anti-caking agents in there. Although sometimes that really doesn't do much good. But anytime I repack salt for long-term storage, I put moisture absorbers in there. And I do the same when I'm repackaging sugar for long-term storage. I throw moisture absorbers in there. In fact, when I was getting stuff ready for Ramadan and we had sugar in those cereal containers, I had taken some of my moisture absorbers that I have here at home and I threw those in those containers with the sugar, and we had some that have salt in them. I threw the moisture absorbers in there. And in that supply room where we keep most of those, I have been putting those moisture absorbers in there, like the damp red, because of all the rain that we've had. The one that's in there now will probably be pretty much full. But I have another one ready to open up to take its place. So I'll dump the one that's currently in use because I check it every time I go in there. So yeah, I'll be changing that one out. You get the container ones that you open up, you take the outer wrapper off, you take that holy lid off, you open up the bag and dump the stuff into that container, and then you put that vented lid back on so it can go to work. Or you can get the kind that is a hanging bag. The top part of the bag has, it's like a permeable material that allows air to go through. But water cannot escape it. So any accumulating water that it draws from the air that goes through it gets caught into the bottom part of that bag. So I've used those. So I can hang those on a wire shelf that we have in there. So yeah, I've been supplying those for about a couple of years, just to try to keep some of the humidity down in there. You can buy them on Amazon. You can buy them from companies like Pack Fresh or Amazon or eBay. sites that sell preparedness supplies or food packaging supplies. You know, the ones that I've gotten have usually been from Amazon. You can get different sizes of them. Some as small as a sugar packet, or some that are big enough to fill the bottom of this bowl. Thanks for dropping in, Ford. Hope to see you another time. Yeah, that's where you can get them. You can get them in like by the 100, or depending on the size of the moisture absorber, different quantity in the package. And every time I buy a pack of them, once I open that package to take some out, they go into a Ziploc bag, and then those go into another container so that they stay fresh. And ready to use when I need them. I also made some out of the number 2 cone coffee filters and uncooked rice. I put a little bit of rice in the coffee filter, then I folded the top over, stapled it shut, and used those as moisture absorbers. In fact, I got a video on how I did that. But that's a few years back in my video library. But back in the day, we were always told to either put a couple of crackers or some torn up pieces of bread in the sugar container or the salt container and use that as a moisture absorber. But you can also buy clay, they call them sugar discs. I had put one in a sugar container several years ago at the mosque, but someone tossed it after using the rest of the sugar, and I never got that one back to reuse again. And then my rice homemade moisture absorbers, whenever those got discovered, they got tossed out. I guess they didn't know what they were and didn't ask about them. But oh well. Out of a 1-pound bag of rice, I think I got like 18 of those homemade moisture absorbers out of it. Those require something that is probably too hard to get a hold of. Because it's a metallic base to it, like an iron oxide base. they're similar to what's in the disposable hand and body warmers, or maybe somewhat similar to what's inside of the element in a ration heater bag. Probably a different blend for that because it requires water to activate it, but it's a similar principle. But getting that compound would be very, very difficult at best. Then you'd have to find the right kind of material to package it in. Yeah, it's just best to buy those already pre-made, and you can get those in different sizes as well. And nowhere near as easy as making your own moisture absorbers. So I'm not even going to attempt to try to make an oxygen absorber. And even if I could get the stuff to do it, it would probably way out of my price range. So it's just not worth the bother. Sorry, I can't be of more help to you on that. Yep, I've been on here 3 hours. It's been a good 3 hours. Unfortunately, not for that. And not for that. But who knows, maybe the other orange drink from this time period might be better. I guess I'll find out when I choose to bring that one out. But I think that's going to be all for tonight. But this was a good one. I'm quite surprised at how much was actually edible. Yeah, the coffee and accessory packet I know is toast. But I got the other tea packet. I may do that hot. And I got that cider. I'm definitely interested in that. Well, now you have. You know, they can be a good part of emergency food storage. Obviously, they can't last anywhere near as long as freeze dried food, but the freeze dried entree in this one, if it's anything like the experimental LRP I opened up a couple months ago, or almost a couple months ago, the main in that one is absolutely awesome. Because that was 95, and this one is 96. So for that one, I would bring out my Tupperware tray, because I know that's going to make a mound of food. But this is definitely something to add to the ration history. Bucket list item checked off. Nope. I have a few relatives who have been, and a second cousin is in the Air Force now. And of course, my dad had mad respect for people who served. And he actually died on Veterans Day back in November of 08. When he knew that his time was coming, he wanted that day to be the day that he left us. And it happened that way. Yeah, my step grandfather on my mom's side, he also got a Purple Heart during World War II, and then he was in the infantry then. Then he got out of the army, but then went into the Air Force in Vietnam, and I think he might have gotten one during that time as well. But my cousin, who was a jet mechanic in the Air Force, she stayed at the Eglin Air Base. She never left the country on any deployments. You know, they had to have people back at the base to keep the jets flying, and that's what her job was. She kept the jets flying from that base. Angel, welcome. Or Angel, I'm not sure what you prefer, but welcome. I was about to close the stream out, but what I opened up was a 1996, I'm going to hold up both bags, 24-hour ration cold weather. I have a lot of items left. And that will be for the next time. I will not be going live next Sunday because of an event hosted by my mosque at a local city park. I will be involved with that. And that ends at 7 o'clock. So by the time we get everything cleaned up and packed up to take away, it'll pretty much be pretty late to get the stream going. So in 2 weeks, I will open up the other main entree, which is the chicken tetrazzini. Or chicken a la king. Yeah, the main entree, the freeze-dried entree, is the chicken a la king. What I had for tonight's meal was the actual chicken-flavored Lipton cup of soup. They put one of those packets inside of a bag like this. And the oatmeal was the same. The oatmeal was inside of another bag. This would have been a breakfast item, but because I'm just doing 2 meals instead of 3, I chose to have the oatmeal tonight, and that was in another bag inside of this. So that entree, the chicken a la king, is going to be double packed like that as well. It may even be triple, because the entree for the LRP, the Long Range Patrol, from 1995, inside of the outer bag that was kind of like this but bigger, there was the entree inside of 2 clear plastic bags. And that kept it very well protected. So that's what I'll be looking at most likely in 2 weeks. And everything is white, because when these are used in the winter, you want to camouflage stuff. So the white would, if you needed to hide something in the snow, you could. Just remember where you buried it. At 7 o'clock U.S. Central Time, that's when I do these every Sunday, except next Sunday I will not be live. But in 2 weeks, I will bring back the other meal. This cocoa mix, not good. The orange drink mix was no longer orange. It smelled funky, so I didn't even bother to empty it into my drinking jar. Well, yep, time to get out of here too. And I want to thank you all for hanging out with me tonight and checking out this very unique vintage ration. And I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks for the rest of this. Thanks for watching, and catch you on the flip side.